I was 29 years old when I watched my mother hand my younger brother the keys to my home. Not just any home. My home. The one I'd spent 3 years fixing with my own two hands and my hard-earned money. The one I'd rescued from being sold with $30,000 from my bank account. The one my parents had looked me in the eyes and promised would belong to me one day. And there it was, being handed to my brother Marcus at his big engagement celebration like I didn't even exist. Everyone clapped and cheered while I stood there like a statue, holding a piece of cake that suddenly tasted like sand in my mouth, understanding that in my family, I had always been invisible. My name is Jordan, and what happened next isn't just about a house. It's about finding out how much you can take before you decide to take something back. From the time we were tiny kids, Marcus and I might have grown up in the same house, eaten at the same dinner table, and played in the same backyard, but our parents treated us like we lived on different planets. I remember when I turned 8 years old. Marcus got a huge birthday party with a bouncy castle and all his friends invited. When my birthday came 2 months later, we had cake at home with just our family. When Marcus got a C on his report card, our parents would hug him and say he tried his best. When I brought home straight A's, they'd glance at my paper and say, "Good job," before walking away. The lesson was clear as glass. Marcus was special. I was just there. By the time I was 24, I'd made a nice life for myself even though I always felt like I wasn't good enough. I had a job at an office downtown where I answered phones and helped customers. I had a small place to live that was very far from work, which meant I spent forever on buses every single day. And I still hoped that maybe someday my parents would look at me and love me the same way they loved my brother. That's when my parents came to me with what looked like a kind offer. They said I could move into their extra property. Well, they didn't say I could just have it. They wanted me to pay them money every month to live there, but less than what other places cost. The house used to belong to my dad's uncle, and when his uncle died, my dad got it. "Jordan, listen," my dad said one evening when I came over for dinner. His voice sounded like he thought he was doing something really nice for me. "You could move into Uncle Ray's old house. We'll only make you pay less money than anywhere else in town." Something inside me felt happy for a second. Was this it? Were they finally seeing me as important? I should have known better. In my family, nothing good came without something bad attached to it. The house was in a great spot, just a short walk to my office. But when I opened the door and walked inside for the first time, I wanted to cry. The floor felt soft and gross under my shoes, covered in old dirty carpet that made dust clouds when you stepped on it. The walls were painted an ugly brown color that made everything look dark and sad. The bathroom was falling apart, with broken tiles and a toilet that barely worked. And the kitchen looked like it was from a million years ago, with machines that made scary sounds. Standing in that smelly living room, I felt that old familiar feeling of being disappointed. This wasn't a gift. This was something they didn't want to deal with themselves. A place they were too lazy to fix up, now acting like they were being so generous to me. But I said yes anyway. The location was perfect for getting to work, and somewhere deep in my heart, that little kid inside me still wanted my parents to be proud of me. What came next was 3 years of hard work, not just fixing the house but fixing myself too. Every time I got paid, I'd put some money aside to make the house better. I painted over those horrible brown walls with pretty blue and yellow colors that made the rooms feel happy and bright. I ripped up that disgusting carpet myself, my hands getting blisters and cuts, saving my money for 4 months until I could buy new floors that looked clean and beautiful. The pipes in the walls were terrible. Water would leak everywhere, making the walls wet and moldy. I paid a man who fixes pipes to come help, and he whistled in surprise. "You're lucky you called me now," he said, shaking his head. "If you'd waited much longer, this whole place could have fallen down." One after another, all the old machines in the kitchen stopped working. The washing machine broke and flooded my new floors with soapy water. The fridge died in the middle of summer, and all my food went bad and smelled awful. The old oven would get too hot on one side and sometimes shoot out little sparks that scared me. I bought new ones to replace them all, watching the number in my bank account get smaller and smaller with each purchase. I even paid an electrician to come fix all the outlets in the walls when he told me the old ones could start a fire and burn the whole house down. Every single improvement, every repair, every tiny thing came from my own wallet. My parents would sometimes stop by to look around, which my dad called checking on the investment. They'd walk through the rooms, nodding their heads at everything I'd done. "You're really making this place look wonderful," my mom would say, touching the fresh paint on the walls with her fingers. "It's going to be worth so much money when you're finished." I didn't mind all the hard work. Actually, I loved it. For the first time in my whole life, I had something that felt like it belonged to me. Even though I was giving my parents money every month, even though the house was technically theirs on paper, I was making a real home. I was creating something beautiful with my own hands and my own ideas. Then, about a year ago, everything fell apart. I was 28, comfortable in my daily routine, feeling pretty happy about how my life was going. I had my job, I had my house, I had my independence. That's when my parents showed up at my front door with serious faces that made my stomach hurt before they even said a word. "Jordan, we need to have a talk," my dad said as they both sat down on my couch, the couch I'd saved up for and bought myself. His face looked worried and scared. "What's wrong?" I asked, though something in my gut was already telling me to get ready for bad news. "We have a big problem with money on this house," my mom said, her voice sounding really upset. "We owe the bank $30,000 and we don't have it. The bank says they're going to take the house away if we don't pay." I felt my coffee cup almost slip out of my hands. "So what do you want me to do about it?" "We need you to give us the $30,000, my dad said, and his words felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "We know that's a whole lot of money, but think about it like you're buying the house. This place is going to be yours someday anyway." "Going to be mine," I repeated, my voice so quiet I could barely hear myself. "Of course," my mom said, reaching over and squeezing my hand in a way she never usually did. "You're our daughter. We would never leave you with nothing. Marcus is going to get the big family house when we're not around anymore, and you'll get this one. You've worked so hard on it already." I had money saved up from years of working and not spending too much. $30,000 was almost everything I had. But if it meant that eventually I would own the place I'd been fixing up and making nice for years, it seemed like it made sense. "You promise this house will be mine?" I asked, needing to hear them say it again. "Absolutely," my dad said, looking right into my eyes with a serious face I didn't see very often. "We're not going to forget about everything you've done for this place. You've made it your home." So I did it. I took $30,000, almost all the money I had in the world, and gave it to my parents to pay their debt to the bank. I trusted them completely. They were my parents, after all. Why would they lie to me about something so important and serious? Life kept going normally after that. I continued living in the house, kept paying them money every month, kept fixing things and making the place nicer. My parents never talked about the money again, and I figured that meant everything was okay. The house would be mine eventually, and I'd already put so much into it that it basically felt like mine anyway. 2 weeks ago, Marcus called me while I was at work. I was typing on my computer when my phone rang, and I could hear how excited and happy he sounded. "Hey Jordan, I have the best news ever," he said, his voice bouncing with joy. "Melody and I are getting engaged. We're having a big engagement party in 2 weeks at her mom and dad's house. You have to come, obviously." Melody had been Marcus's girlfriend for about a year and a half. I knew her from around town. We'd gone to the same school when we were younger. She was kind, smart, friendly, a really good person. "Marcus, that's so awesome," I said, and I really meant it. Even with all the stuff with my parents, I did care about my brother. "Melody is great. You two are perfect together." "Thanks, sis. It makes me really happy to hear you say that." Mom and Dad are so excited about it. Course they were. Their favorite son was getting married to a nice girl from a good family. This was probably the best thing that had happened to them in forever. The engagement party was at Melody's parents' house in a nice neighborhood about 30 minutes away from downtown. When I got there, the place was already full of people, maybe 40 or 50 Melody's family, friends from high school I recognized, relatives I'd seen at holidays over the years. "Jordan, Melody came running over to me as soon as I walked through the door, her face glowing with happiness. "I'm so happy you're here." "Congratulations," I said, giving her a big tight hug. "I'm so happy for you and Marcus." The party was going really well. People were laughing, eating good food, drinking, sharing funny stories about the happy couple. I was actually having fun, talking with old friends, enjoying the celebration. Then, about an hour after I arrived, my father made a loud noise to get everyone's attention. "Excuse me, everyone," he said, his voice carrying across the whole room. "Can I have everyone's attention for a minute?" The room got quiet, and everyone turned to look at my father. He was standing in the middle of the living room, my mom right next to him, both of them smiling like they were the happiest people in the world. "Diane and I wanted to say how incredibly proud we are of our son Marcus," my dad continued. "He's always been such an amazing boy, and watching him so happy with Melody just makes our hearts feel like they're going to burst." People whispered their agreement, smiling and nodding their heads. This was nice, I thought. A little emotional but sweet. "We have a very, very special engagement present for Marcus," my dad said, reaching into his jacket and pulling something out. "Something that shows just how much we love him and how proud we are of the man he's grown into." He pulled out a big envelope and gave it to Marcus. My brother's face got bright and happy, but he didn't look surprised at all. Actually, he looked like he knew this was coming. "Go on, son. Open it," my dad said. Marcus opened the envelope and took out some papers that looked official and important. He looked at them quickly, then looked up at our parents with the biggest smile I'd ever seen. "Mom, Dad, this is unbelievable," he said, his voice sounding like he might cry from happiness. "Thank you so much. I can't believe you're giving us this." "What is it?" someone yelled from the crowd. My mom stepped forward, looking like she might explode from pride. "It's the deed to a house downtown. The one that Jordan has been living in for the past few years. We're giving it to Marcus and Melody as an engagement gift." The room exploded with congratulations and clapping. People were cheering, calling out how lucky Marcus was, telling my parents what generous and wonderful people they were. I felt like someone had hit me in the stomach with a baseball bat. Everything around me got blurry and dark at the edges, and I couldn't breathe right. I had to grab the back of a chair to stop myself from falling down. The house. My house. The one I'd been paying rent on for 3 years. The one I'd completely fixed up with my own money and my own hard work. The one I'd given them $30,000 to save from the bank just a year ago. The one my parents had actually promised would be mine someday. They were giving it to Marcus. Like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. "This is such an incredible gift," Melody was saying, looking at the papers in Marcus's hands. "We're so grateful. We've been talking about needing our own place, and this is just perfect. Marcus deserves it," my dad said loudly, making sure everyone in the room could hear him. "He's getting married, starting a family soon, hopefully. He and Melody need their own place to start their life together." I looked at my parents, desperately trying to catch their eyes, hoping for some kind of explanation or maybe an apology. But when they finally looked at me, they just smiled a little and shrugged their shoulders like this was the most normal thing in the entire world. That's when my Aunt Rachel, my mom's older sister, spoke up from the other side of the room. "Hold on a second," she said, her voice cutting through all the happy noise. "What about Jordan? Hasn't she been living in that house for years?" The room went dead silent. Everyone turned to look at me, then back at my parents. I felt my face getting hot with embarrassment, but I couldn't say anything. My throat felt like it was closed up. My dad just shrugged his shoulders like it was no big deal. "Jordan will need to move out, obviously. We've been letting her stay there for 3 years now. I think that's been more than generous. She's an adult," my mom added. "She can find her own place to live. There are lots of apartments she can rent in the city." I could have told everyone the truth right there. I could have stood up and announced that I hadn't been living there for free like my parents were making it sound. I could have explained that I paid them money every single month, that I'd fixed up the entire house with my own money, that I'd given them $30,000 just last year to save that house from being taken by the bank. But I didn't say anything. A whole lifetime of being told to be quiet, to not cause problems, to not make a scene kept me frozen like a statue. I just sat there for another 30 minutes, watching my brother and his fiancée accept congratulations for their wonderful gift. Watching my parents soak up praise for being such giving, generous people. Finally, I couldn't take one more second. I quietly stood up, grabbed my purse, and walked out of Melody's parents' house. Nobody even noticed I was leaving. The drive back to the house, no, not my house anymore, was a blur of headlights and tears I wouldn't let fall. When I got home, I poured myself a big glass of wine and sat on my couch, the couch I'd bought with my own paycheck, staring at the walls I'd painted myself. Everything in this place represented years of my life, my money, my sweat, my hope. And now Marcus was just going to get it all handed to him like a present wrapped with a bow. That's when my phone buzzed with a text message from Marcus. Move out immediately. You have 2 days. 2 days. Not even a week. Not even a phone call to talk about it. Just a cold, mean text message ordering me out of the home I'd created with my own 2 hands. I stared at those words for a very long time, feeling something change inside me. The hurt and shock were still there, sitting heavy in my chest, but rising up through all of that came something new and powerful. Anger. White hot like fire and crystal clear. They thought they could just throw me away like trash. They thought they could steal $30,000 from me, embarrass me in front of everyone I knew, then kick me out with just 2 days' notice like I was nothing. But here's something important about pushing someone too far for too long. Eventually they stop letting you push. I called my best friend Sarah, who'd known me since we were teenagers and was one of the only people who understood how hard my family could be. Sarah, I need help, I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Can I stay at your place for a little while? I need to find somewhere new to live. Of course you can, but what happened? Are you okay? I'll tell you everything later. I just need somewhere to go for a few days while I figure out my next move. Actually, wait. My cousin Jessica just moved to another country for her job. Her apartment is sitting there empty. You could stay there as long as you want. No rent, just pay for the lights and water. I almost started crying right there from relief and gratitude. After I hung up, I sat there in the quiet, thinking hard about what to do next. Then an idea started growing in my mind. If my parents wanted to play dirty games, I could play games too. I called a company that removes appliances and fixtures, and I asked them to come first thing the next morning. I need you to take out and remove all the appliances, I told the man on the phone. The dishwasher, the fridge, the stove, all of it. I also need you to remove all the outlets in the walls and all the pipe fixtures in the bathroom. The guy on the phone sounded really confused. Ma'am, that's going to leave the place pretty empty and bare. That's exactly what I want, I said, feeling a new kind of strength in my voice. I bought all of those things with my own money, so I'm taking them with me when I leave. The next morning, the crew showed up bright and early and got straight to work. They disconnected the dishwasher from the pipes, unplugged the big refrigerator, pulled out the stove from the wall. They removed every single electrical outlet I'd paid to install, took out the new bathroom fixtures that actually worked, even removed the pretty light fixtures I'd bought to replace the ugly old ones. But the best part, the floors. That took the longest time. They had to pull up every single piece, one by one, but I'd saved all my receipts, so I knew exactly what I'd paid for. Every single piece of that beautiful floor was mine. Watching them strip the place down to almost nothing was strangely satisfying. With each item they removed and loaded onto the truck, I felt a little piece of my power coming back. This wasn't just me being petty or mean. This was me taking back what belonged to me. That evening I called a moving company. They came with a big truck and loaded up all my furniture, all the appliances, all the floor pieces, everything. Sarah met me at Jessica's apartment with the keys, and we spent the whole night moving everything inside and setting it up. When we were finally done and everything was put away, I took the house keys and put them in an envelope. I wrote a very short note. I've moved out like you asked. The house is yours now. I sent it by special delivery to my parents' house. The next morning my phone started ringing at 7 in the morning. It was my mom, then my dad, then Marcus calling over and over and over again. I let every single call go to voicemail. Then the text messages started flooding in one after another. You had no right to do that. We're calling the police on you. You can't just destroy our property. You're going to pay for this, Jordan. Finally, around lunchtime, I answered when my mom called again. Jordan, what the hell did you do? She screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I moved out exactly like you told me to, I said, my voice calm and steady. You destroyed the house. You took everything. The outlets, the pipes, the floors. It's completely gutted and empty. I took what belonged to me, I said simply. I bought all of those things with my own money. I have all the receipts to prove it. You're being mean and vindictive. This is so petty and childish. We could have you arrested for this. Go ahead, I said. Call the police. Tell them I took my own stuff when I moved out. I'm sure they'll be very interested in hearing about how you tricked me out of $30,000 and then kicked me out with 2 days' notice. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a long moment. Jordan, you really shouldn't have done this, my mom said finally, her voice much quieter now. Look, maybe we can work something out. Maybe we can say that $30,000 was an engagement gift for Marcus. Would that make you feel better? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. An engagement gift. They were trying to make up a story after the fact to justify stealing my money by calling it a gift to my brother. You're all liars, I said, my voice shaking now. You lied to me. You used me. And you threw me away when it was convenient for you. So I'm treating you exactly the way you deserve to be treated. Jordan, please, let's talk about this. Oh, and Mom, you haven't seen everything yet. I've got one more surprise coming your way soon. Then I hung up the phone. The next morning I called a tow truck company. I had one more card left to play. One last thing I'd almost forgotten about in all this chaos. I need you to pick up a car from this address, I told them, giving them my parents' street number. It's a red Toyota Camry, license plate JH5000. I'm the legal owner, and I have all the paperwork to prove it's mine. The car was something that had slipped my mind during all this mess. 2.5 years ago, when my parents started having money problems, they'd asked if they could borrow my old car, just for a little while until they figured out their situation. That was 2.5 years ago. I'd bought myself a newer car and just let them keep using the Toyota. I was still paying the insurance on it every month, still the legal owner on all the papers, but I'd basically forgotten about it and let them have it. Just another one of my many generous gestures that they'd apparently forgotten ever happened. The tow truck driver called me about an hour later. Ma'am, I've got your car right here on my truck. There was an older couple who came running out of the house yelling and screaming about it, but I showed them all the paperwork. They couldn't do anything to stop me. Perfect, I said, feeling a smile spread across my face for the first time in weeks. Please bring it to this address. 15 minutes after the car was delivered to Jessica's apartment building, my phone absolutely exploded with calls and messages. I didn't answer a single one, but the text messages were something else entirely. You can't just steal our car like that. We need that car to get to work. We don't have money to buy another car. You're being a terrible, horrible person. My brother sent me the most interesting one of all. You're a complete nightmare. Don't bother coming to my wedding. That one actually made me laugh out loud, a real genuine laugh. As if I would ever want to celebrate with any of them ever again. I blocked all their phone numbers after that. I was completely done listening to their complaints and excuses. 3 weeks later, I put the Toyota up for sale online. It was in really great condition because I'd taken good care of it, and it sold within just 1 week for $11,000. When I deposited that check into my bank account, I smiled bigger than I had in months. $11,000. Not quite the $30,000 they'd stolen from me, but it was something real and solid. It was a start toward getting back on my feet. About 2 weeks after that, I got a completely unexpected call from Melody. I was really surprised to hear from her, but something made me answer the phone. Hey Melody. What's going on? Jordan, I really need to talk to you. Can we meet somewhere in person? We met at a coffee shop in the middle of town. Melody looked exhausted and stressed out, Nothing at all like the glowing happy bride-to-be I'd seen at the engagement party just weeks before. Your parents told me the whole story, she said as soon as we both sat down with our coffee, about what happened with the house and everything. They're blaming everything on you, saying you're being mean and vindictive and trying to destroy their family on purpose. And what did Marcus say about it all? Melody's face got dark and angry. He agreed with them completely. He called you greedy and selfish. He said you were just trying to cause trouble because you were jealous of our relationship and our happiness. And what did you think about all that? I asked carefully. Jordan, I knew you lived in your parents' house. I've been there to visit you so many times over the years when we'd hang out, but I had absolutely no idea you paid $30,000 to save it from the bank. I had no idea you'd fixed up the entire place with your own money and your own work. I had no idea you'd been paying rent all these years. Nobody told me any of that. Well, now you know the truth, I said quietly. I can't marry him, Melody said suddenly, her voice breaking a little. I can't marry into a family that would do something like this to their own daughter. And Marcus, the way he talked about you, his own sister, it made me feel sick to my stomach. Melody, you need to make your own choice about this. Please don't let my situation change what you want to do with your life. It's not just about your situation, she said firmly. It's about how they all handled it. Your parents lied to you, stole from you, and then acted like you were the bad guy. And Marcus just went along with all of it without even trying to make it right or stand up for you. 1 month later, my Aunt Rachel called to tell me that Melody had broken off the engagement completely. The wedding was cancelled. Your parents and Marcus are absolutely furious, she said. They're blaming everything on you, saying you poisoned Melody against them and ruined Marcus's life. Of course they're blaming me, I said, not even surprised anymore. God forbid they actually take responsibility for their own terrible actions. 6 months have gone by since all of this happened. I'm still living in Jessica's apartment, keeping it clean and nice, paying for the electricity and water. I've been saving money like crazy, and without having to pay rent, I've already saved enough for a down payment on my very own place. My parents and Marcus have tried to contact me through other family members a handful of times, but I've made it absolutely clear that I'm not interested in fixing our relationship or talking to them. They made their choice when they decided to lie to me, use me, and steal from me. I've made my choice too. Do I miss having a family sometimes? Yes, I do. But I don't miss the constant feeling of being less important, less loved, less valuable. I don't miss being used like a tool and then thrown away. I don't miss being treated like I don't matter at all. I think about Marcus's broken engagement sometimes, and while I didn't plan for that to happen, I'm not sorry it did. Melody deserved better than marrying into a family of liars and thieves. And Marcus deserved to lose something precious to him, just like I lost so much. Am I still angry? Not really, not anymore. I'm disappointed, sure. I'm hurt by how easily they discarded me like garbage. But mostly I'm just relieved to be free of all of them. They can keep their lies, their favoritism, their manipulative games. I've got my own life to build now, and I'm going to make absolutely sure it's a beautiful one. Thanks for listening to my story. And if you connected with this, please share it with C2 might need to hear that sometimes standing up for yourself isn't selfish or wrong. It's survival. Don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe to Women's Revenge for more stories about finding your strength and power when the people who should love you become the ones who hurt you most. Remember, family should lift you up and support you, not tear you down and use you.